prospect, follow up, work on skills, have daily schedule, and be consistent in all those things. And when someone's not having success, by success, I don't mean you can't decide if you sell a house this week, but if you look at, a trailing 6 months, and if someone's finding success, if they're not, there is no way that they are doing these 5 things. Like I just know that's the fact of the matter.
Real estate rock stars, welcome back. I am Shelby Johnson, and I'm here today with Lars Anderson. And this episode is for you if you are curious about the 5 things that you should be doing to find success as a realtor. We're going to go deep on that and some more about Lars. He is from Twin Cities, Minnesota. He's been an agent for 5 years and is one of 3 of the team leads for Team Steady, which I'm so curious to get into that in a little bit. They have 15 agents in their organization. Lars, as an agent by himself, closes 100 transactions a year and 40 million annually. And then as an organization, they're on track to close about 450 transactions this year. So those are really big numbers. Lars, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. And let's go back. Like, why real estate? Who are you? Some context, please, sir.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. So thank you. Little bit about me. So let's see, 3 things about me that I think you should know. I am a married man. I have 2. I married my high school sweetheart. I have 2 kids that I love. Cruz, who's 2, our little boy, and then Josie, who is 1. And then we just found out last week we got a third a boy on the way. So that's love being a husband, above all else, and then a dad, and there's nothing better than that. Number 2, I am a follower of Jesus. So I find my identity, whether business is good or not good, in being a follower of Jesus. So my faith is really important to me, and that gives me freedom to run after things that excite me. So that's number 2. And then number 3 is, like a lot of people, I love growth. So I love just feeling like I'm growing. Sometimes I'm not the best at something, but if I'm growing and maximizing what I've been given, and the cards I've been dealt, that's what's most important to me. So that really drives me to whatever my hand finds to do it with all my might. That's kind of how I run things. So that's a little bit about me. I got into real estate, 5 years ago. And yes, like you said, I now lead a team. So we're under the Remax Results umbrella here in Minnesota. There's me, a guy that started the team named Sam, and then his brother-in-law, Taylor. We're the team leads now. And there, I think, is 15 total realtors, and then 1 operations manager. And then I have an executive assistant that works directly with me. So that's a little bit about our team, and a little bit about me.
That's super helpful. I love to understand kind of the structure and the setup of the team.
Yeah.
And curious, so you guys have, 3 people leading, you have 15 total realtors and 1 ops. Do you guys also have like transaction coordinators, listing coordinators, or is it just like that 1 ops is a freaking machine? What does that look like behind the scenes?
That one, that's a good question. That 1 ops is a freaking machine. So his name's Nick Martin. He's awesome. He works with all of us. So he is helping with drafting offers, drafting listing docs, doing all the kind of transaction coordinating type things. And then also will lead on like when we meet with a brand rep, or we recently got ordered a bunch of, team gear. And so he organizes that stuff. So that's great. And then us 3 team leads and now another guy in the team all have assistants, executive assistants that are helping with, email, client relations, like literally everything. So as guys, we're big believers. And so there's us 3 team leads. We run our own business. So it's not, our day-to-day does not look like meeting with the guys on the team and going, hey, this is what you need to do. These are your goals. We do all of that stuff. But it's more, we train guys to hunt, kill and to repeat sort of thing. So we give them the tools we're not passing out leads to our team. We give them the tools to learn how to cold call, to do listing presentations, work with buyers, everything that it takes to be a great agent. And then they're kind of just running alongside of us, and we're leading the charge by actually doing the work. I think it was just never an intention of ours to lead a team and be like, I'm going to sit back and tell my team to work hard so we can get paychecks. We're more like, hey, let's train people that are super self-motivated and want to run and humble and want to learn. But we still want to run our business and kind of lead from example too. So up to this point, that's been how the team has looked.
I'm curious, and we don't have to go this direction if you don't want to, but so it sounds like, a little unique take on a team, because most teams are the team leader, everyone else, there's high splits, there's a responsibility to doing whatever the team lead kind of says. And it sounds like you guys are a bunch of independent operators who, like you said, run along each other and kind of have the ownership of failure or success on their own shoulders. So I'm curious how that works in regards to the team part. Is there splits? Are they required to brand like you guys? What does that look like if you're comfortable?
No, yeah, absolutely. I'm an open book. We got nothing to hide. And when guys jump on, we never want to feel like we're convincing someone. So we're at 15. We're at 15 people on the team. I have a belief that we could be at 100 plus if we were looking for people, just because of the brand that we've created in the Twin Cities here. It's been very organic. So the person has to be a great fit, and has to reach out to us to join the team. And then that's where we have them join. So our splits, how we have it structured, and this wasn't always this way, but we started running around like chickens with our head cut off. Like, what are the successful people doing? How are they selling real estate? And we started doing that. And then we started going, we need to work on our business and on our team and that sort of thing. So that kind of came, it probably wasn't exactly the correct order for things. But if someone joins our team, the first 50 deals, they pay a 50-50 split to the team. Right now, we actually have me, Sam, and Taylor leading the team. And then we have a leadership team of 5 guys that have proved that they sell 30 plus homes a year. They bought into our culture. They know what it takes to be a winning agent. So when someone joins our team, they get paired with one of the leadership guys on our team, because the leadership guys are now in a spot where they could actually do a lot of coaching. So leadership guys on the team actually get the biggest split of that 50-50. So new agent, 50-50. Say Joe is a leadership guy. Joe would train that new agent. Joe would be the first line of defense. And then Joe actually takes, just about half of that 50-50 as a referral to him for the first 50 deals. And then the next 50 deals, it's a 75-25 split. And then after that, you're just seen as a quote unquote, partner of the team, where it's a 90-10 split. And that's where then you stick for the rest of time. So there's definitely a period where you're paying your dues. But we want people on the team that are in this not to sell 8 homes a year, but are more going how do I go faster, further, or how do I go further, faster? So how do I get, 100 referral past clients, or 100 past clients that can now be referral partners as quick as possible, versus how do I keep the most amount of my commission day one?
Real quick, before we get back to the episode, 2 things I wanted to share. First, thank you so much for tuning in week after week. It really means the world to all of us. Second, we feel like we're just getting started. If you enjoy what we do here, please follow us on this app, share an episode, or give us a quick review. I promise we're working hard behind the scenes to make this show as good as possible now and into the future. Thanks, guys. Back to the show. 100%. There's the belief that, I just want to jump ahead and get 90-10 right at the gate, in a system like yours, man, that sucks. But what they may not realize it is those reps, it is the struggle and the day and day, the work that makes you into the agent that can operate at a high level. And so people are like, oh man, I want to skip to this, but really you don't. Because if you were to just jump into that position, you wouldn't be prepared. You wouldn't have your experience or knowledge to actually thrive. And so it's like there's actually this like hidden glory in the suffering days, in the survival days, and as you work towards the thriving days.
Yep. Yeah, 1,000%. So that's the we set these expectations up front. I don't go out publicizing these. Like I said, we don't. But people that meet with us and go, hey, what does it look like to be on the team? They more like it's got to be a good culture fit. It's got to be someone who's in it full time, because we've found that when people aren't in it full time, they become I'm not going after them as a person, but a little bit of a time suck, and where I'd rather have someone go, hey, how do I be a great agent? And we sit down and we do a workshop, and we give them the keys to the Maserati. But they got to put it in, they got to press the gas, and they got to go. And if they're not willing to do those activities, then they're not a great fit for us. But like someone comes in and I'll tell them exactly how I have done exactly, everything that I'm doing right now, all the systems, all the templates, all the people I'm cold calling. I have a belief that the people that are really motivated and willing to kind of fight through the mud are going to do that. And then the people that I am transparent with that just aren't going to do that, they don't do that. So it's kind of like real estate. There's no secret sauce necessarily. You just got to freaking do it.
Yep. It's going to suck. It's going to be really hard and you're going to be miserable for a while, but that's okay. It's part of the process.
It is.
But dude, you mentioned a couple things that I can't wait to dig into in a little bit. You mentioned systems, templates, that's my love language. And then you also mentioned cold calling. I'm always curious about the marketing piece of people's business, like where are leads coming from? But first, I want to talk about those 5 things that, you talked about a little bit before we hit record, of if someone is struggling in their business, it normally comes back to these 5 things that they're probably not doing, because that's what's required to find success as a realtor. So can you hit me? I'm dying to know.
Yes, absolutely. So, and I shared this just with our team a few weeks ago again, and it's like real estate doesn't change. So we have different social media outlets and these different things, but real estate doesn't change. So these 5 things I don't think will change. Number 1 is prospecting. So that is we're believers in open houses, cold calling. So that could be calling investors, that could be calling expired listings for sale by owners. It could be, you're calling around listings that you or people in your office have. And then just having real estate conversations. So believer that you just need to meet new people. You need to be personable, be interested in them. And they're often interested in what you do and stuff like that. So prospecting, number 1. Number 2 is follow-up. So it doesn't help to do open houses. It doesn't help to cold call. It doesn't help to do any of those things if you're not following up like a mad man or woman. We just follow up until they tell us to stop. So that was something that was like, if I go back to my first deals in real estate, it came and it was like 3 months after follow up, after I didn't hear back the first 5 times. And then I finally, got an answer, something like that. Number 3, working on skills. I'm a big believer in just honing in your craft at all times. So getting better and better, never feeling like never waking up and feeling like I have it all figured out. So I watch kind of each guy on our team and what level they're at. And we have some guys that could be sitting there thinking, I got this whole thing figured out. But we just have a culture of like learning more and being humble. And each day is a new day to learn something new. And then have a daily schedule. So I think when there's a lack of motivation or lack of productivity, I think it can often go back to someone's schedule. Are they actually scheduling out activities? They have it set in stone, so they're not waking up and going flying by the seat of their pants and going by their emotions, but they're going by actually a strategic plan that they already had in place. And then consistency with the first four. So prospect, follow up, work on skills, have daily schedule, and be consistent in all those things. And when someone's not having success, by success, I don't mean you can't decide if you sell a house this week, but if you look at, a trailing 6 months, and if someone's finding success, if they're not, there is no way that they are doing these 5 things. Like I just know that's the fact of the matter. History would tell us. And it's really not, it's super simple. And I've heard so many people on this podcast say it, super simple, but super difficult.
Yeah. Simple does not mean easy.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Lars, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this podcast and I'm like, oh my God, this guy closes 100 deals a year. And he just said that a daily schedule is important. I'm curious. I'm like, what does your daily schedule look like? Daily or weekly? Share what insight into your world, Lars.
Yes. So early on, it took me a couple years to figure out that in real estate, once you start getting deals going, like fires come up nonstop all the time. So I am kind of my morning's really important. So my wake up, at least probably 3 to 4 times a week, is at 5:20. I'm going to the gym at 6, working out from 6 to 6:15 or 6 to 6:15, 15-minute workout, 6 to 7:15.
Really high intensity.
Yeah, really high intensity.
Yeah.
Probably by 7:30, 7:40, I am back home and in the sauna for 20 minutes. That's a time that at least a couple of times a week I do like a meditation. Otherwise, I listen to music or do prayer of some sort. And then from 8 to 8:30, sometimes 8:45, it is me in prayer or reading the Bible or reading a book about faith. So that's kind of my morning time. And then I get to see getting ready, see my family and the kids. And then I'm out the door by about 9. So some people would go, you're out the door by 9, you're lazy. But at that point, I feel like I have accomplished my most important things in the day. And that really gets me in the right mindset to be able to handle what life is about to throw at me. So I try not to be, I'm not perfect, obviously. But I try not to look at my phone for, a couple hours when I wake up, because I don't want someone else to speak into my life, what my emotions should be. I'd rather determine that. And then, around 8:45 or 9 is when I start to pick up the emails and the texts and the calls and stuff like that. And then I'm in at the office. I try to not schedule meetings in the morning. Just determine, like I used to try to meetings in the morning through the afternoon. And if I have the mornings to go to my office from 9 to call it 11:30, to just be able to connect with my assistant, to prospect, to follow up. Like if I can accomplish those things, 3 of the 5 things during that time before 11:30, then 11:30 hits. And that's where I might do appointments in the afternoon, or I've accomplished everything I need to. And the afternoons are going home early to play with the kids, or going on a listing appointment or something like that.
We're putting out all the fires.
Putting out, exactly. The fires are, those things are actually a lot of times, I find them to be fun to put out because you're problem solving, but you can do that when you're lower energy in the afternoon, because it's a little bit, but the things that are hard are prospecting sometimes and follow up, because they're just tedious or they take some courage. And those things are good to knock out in the morning.
Yeah. It's funny that you said the no phone thing in the morning, because it was earlier this week that within my community, member wrote, like, hey, how do you start your day right? Like, what's the most important thing in your mornings? And I wrote, not looking at my phone, emails, or any technology for hours. Because I have to, just like you, like I have to get my mind right, ground myself, think about at least, and we're a little different on what we do during the morning time, but basically establish those priorities, my priorities, and not the world's screaming priorities, that the minute you pick up the phone or look at your email just for a second, you're pulled and dragged in one direction or the other. And getting back to that grounded, centered place is so challenging. And that centered place is so important as an agent because of the fires, because of the chaos, and everyone needs you all the time. So very cool that you said that.
Yeah. And like you said, like your morning, it may not always too feel like you're being super productive, but when you practice gratefulness in the morning, if you do that for months and months, like all of a sudden that problem comes up during the day that you used to stress over a ton. And it's like, why am I not as stressed about that? And it's because there's like the habit of gratefulness and stuff like that. So it's like, it's not just for that one day. Like if you do practice gratefulness 4 times a week, well, the other 3 days that you don't practice are also, you're going to benefit from that because you're building up that muscle, in you.
100%. I went to Tom Ferry Summit for the first time now last month, and the keynote was talking about, he was a happiness researcher. And this is something, I don't know if you do this or not, but it was something that I did not know. And I learned is that he was, of course, talking about practicing being grateful and gratitude. But he said that the key is in writing down new things every day, or thinking of new things every day, because if you write the same thing down each day that you're grateful for, you don't train your brain to be constantly searching for the positive, searching for, the bright side. Whereas if it's new things, then it's really not even the gratitude. It's the habit of thinking, pulling it out of the world that you live in, the bright side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm writing it down. I mean, that's awesome.
Dude, I thought so too. I was like, wow, man. Okay, but back to you. Okay, I love your routine. It makes so much sense to me. Can we talk a little bit about how you do your prospecting?
Yes. So right now it's a little... So when I started, it was open houses. So I'd do 4 to 5 open houses a weekend. And then that was the weekend. So I would use some time during the week to get those set up and stuff like that. Right now, my focus is actually prospecting to investors that own properties. And this is outside of I see social media, I continue to do social media and hey, I'm out here grinding and having fun and do selfies on Facebook and LinkedIn and all of those things. I see that as a very passive, a passive way to do prospecting. So I'm not really counting that. I'm counting more my office type stuff. Right now I'm calling owners of apartment buildings, owners of single family homes, owners of duplexes, and just trying to have conversations around what they own, what their journey has looked like in real estate. And I've started to do that more because interest rates have gone up, and I really need to understand what a person's motivation might be, because if it's just for a while, for my first 4 years in real estate, it was hey, have you thought about selling and netting, I didn't say this, but netting a massive profit from when you bought it. Now it's not so much. There needs to be motivation of relocating, or they own these investment properties that were handed down to them, or they're starting to become painful because the tenants that are in them, or they have debt coming up on, maybe they had 5-year debt on an apartment building or something like that. That debt is coming due pretty soon. So it would make sense for them to sell it before they lock in a 8% interest rate. And so a lot of it is having those kind of conversations with people. I'm also prospecting commercial lenders And for a long time, I would meet with a lot of mortgage lenders, that would do more residential type sales. Now I'm meeting with commercial lenders too, just to sort of add to my Rolodex of people and understanding how commercial debt works and when that could make sense, and things like that. So that's kind of the focus of my prospecting. And then I'm pretty simple. Like, I got my Excel spreadsheet up, and when I have the conversation, I'm putting their name in, the property that I called on, any notes that they have, if they own other properties, if there's someone that I want to set a coffee meeting with in the future, and I just kind of pump through that. So I start to build out, one, are they a seller? Would they sell? No, they're not a seller. Well, would you be open to buying? Because I'm constantly looking for off-market deals. So I kind of view every single person as, unless they're just like, hey, pound sand and go away, I don't ever want to talk to you again. There's always usually some angle that you can take with people, because they're either someone that has money to buy, and they just want to buy stuff, or they potentially would sell. So that's how I'm doing it these days.
A quick word on our toolbox. We know it can be overwhelming thinking about all of the systems you want to build into your business, and that is why we ask guests to submit their favorite checklist, template, or tracker so you don't have to build from the ground up. Go to realestaterockstarsnetwork.com and click Toolbox for your free access. Thanks so much. Where are you finding? I'm listening, and I'm like, that makes sense. I kind of want to call people who are, it sounds like, investors in one way, shape, or form. They own property.
Yep.
And where are you pulling that data? Yeah. And how are you figuring out what to target specifically?
Yep. So I am pulling data from, like, in the Twin Cities, we use, it's RedX Dialer, and then they help you scrape. I'm not super into the, we go to Mike Ferry conferences, and then we jumped onto one of the dialers that they sell, and one that scrapes. So it's able to scrape in the Twin Cities who owns investment properties, and then you can sort by single family duplexes, if it's 4 families or less, or if it's more than that. So I'm just using like a paid service to do that.
No, makes sense.
And then helpful. As far as the larger buildings, it's using something like CoStar or LoopNet, or in Minnesota, Mincar. And then you're actually able to, some of those places, and I don't know if it's CoStar's $500 a month, but you're able to, basically look at a property and look who the owner of the property is, or at least who's managing it. And then you're just making calls trying to get the right person on the phone. So that's a little bit of like the slower process, is going through, something on the commercial side like CoStar, and just selecting like, hey, I know that property, I'm sorting by 10 to 20 units and going that way.
Okay. So you are going into RedX, and you are identifying, based on that, you are able to search the criteria of the properties that you're looking for in the areas, all of that stuff. Then it hones in, and it scrapes. By scrapes, you mean pull the data. Is that correct?
Pulling the data. Yep. It pulls the data from probably 1,000 different sites, and it's basically determining who's the person that owns it. Is there a way for us to find the phone number of that person, the email of that person? And sometimes the data is accurate and it's good, and then sometimes it isn't. Or another thing you can do is, like in the city that I own some investment properties here, just in the north suburbs of the Twin Cities. I reached out to the city of New Brighton and said, hey, do you have a list of people that own, because I know you need a rental license in that area. Do you have a list of those people that have an open rental license? And sometimes cities will say no. Like, I've done this with a few cities, and sometimes they go, no, we're not willing to share that information. It's not public. And then sometimes it's like, oh yeah, here's the information. I then can take whatever they have, whatever information they give. It's probably the person's name, the person's address, the person's phone number, if it's on there, or email. Usually it's not email. And then I can upload it into something like RedX, which is the dialer. And from there, I can press start, and then it's calling these people, and the address comes up when they answer the phone, and I can say, hey, do you own that rental property there? Would you be interested in selling it at the right price, or so on and so forth?
You read my mind. That was my next question. Could you walk us through, how that conversation might go? So anyone listening might be able to duplicate your process.
Yeah, so it's very simple, and I've done more in-depth scripts, but it usually is just, hey, I apologize if I'm wrong, but are you the owner of this property? And then they usually go like, yeah, or no, I'm not. If they say no, then, I would ask. It's kind of like you can't lose at that point. So you're like, do you know who the owner is? No. Okay. If they are, then it would be, would you ever be interested in selling that property? And then you kind of get them like just talking a little bit. If they say, sorry, I also introduced, I'm Lars calling with Remax. Just curious if you'd be interested in selling that property. And then they might say, I want to determine pretty quickly if they're like someone who just won't talk to me. So if they kind of start to say, I don't, maybe how much or something like that, then we're getting into, well, can I get just a few details on it? And I'll try to set a meeting to go see it or understand, what the ownership looks like of it. And we just kind of get into a conversation there, but it's super simple. So the barrier to entry is just like, hey, I see you own that property. Would you be interested? I don't want to waste your time, but would you be interested in selling it? And then we see what they say.
How many calls do you think you have to make in order to get a yes? Do you know? You can just guess.
I'd say 25 calls.
Oh, that's actually really good.
Not necessarily yes, meaning like, yeah, come list my property. But for sure, like a yes, that's like, let's, meet there, or let's talk about it further, or, I would, they maybe disclose a price. Cause oftentimes if they say, I'd be open to selling it, what's the price? I'm never the one to disclose like what price I'm thinking. I may pull it up on my computer quick and kind of start to go like, hey, is this thing worth 300,000? And the guy goes, yeah, I'd sell it for 750. Then it's just like, hey, they're not being realistic. But if sometimes people are, surprise you by going, well, if I could get 300 for it, and you're like, that's a duplex in a pretty good area. Like, I bet it would list at 325. Like, yeah, I think 300 is definitely doable. Can we check it out? Or would you sell it at that price? If I brought someone to you. And so those are, the conversations that I'm counting as like, yes. Or someone that's like, hey, follow up with me in a couple weeks. I'm out of town, but I am open to this. I'm counting that as a yes.
I just heard this thing the other day. There was a term for it, and I can't remember it now, but it's basically this type of marketing where people are like printing out screenshots of Zillow, like agents, and just like, giving it to sellers and being like, this is what Zillow says your home value is. What do you think? And if they think it's high or low, people like come out, and it really just opens the conversation. And then it gives you an idea as an agent where that potential seller's head is at, because you do tend to play that game where it's like, well, what do you think I should get? Well, what do you think it's worth? Blah, blah, blah. But if you like get Zillow in there,
yeah,
I heard that little snippet the other day and I was like, that's pretty cool. But
yeah. Any tricks like that, or like you're doing a walkthrough of some people's house and it's more of like, hey, we're thinking about selling our house and buying a house. Well, let's first have a meeting where we go meet over at their house. I make it super like not threatening, where it's like, hey, let's meet at your house. So I can just visually see it. I go into that doing a little bit of research where it's like, hey, I have some idea of what this house could sell for. But then it's really just you're meeting there and you're going, have you guys looked at neighbors' houses and what they've sold for? Like, do you have an idea of what you think and you can tell really quickly if it's like, we kind of think like 450 or somewhere around there. And it's a great feeling when it's like, yeah, they're being very realistic. Like I was thinking 475. So if they're okay with the 450 mark, we're going to be right around there and we're not going to have a problem. Or if they say, hey, I think my house is worth 500 and I was thinking 475 or 450 or something like that, then we're going to kind of table the talk on, I'll talk a little bit about mindset and how, yeah, we just want to make sure we're at a price that's a great market price so we don't scare anyone away. But I'll talk a little bit about mindset and pricing mindset, but we won't get into the numbers because I'm going to then pull a comparable market analysis report after. So I don't want to put the pressure of a full listing appointment, right away where we talk all the numbers. I want to try to organically get that number from them.
There's so much little
it's like a cheat
strategy.
code. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the strategy is what you learn from being around those other people in your, in your office who are also high performers and also knocking out the reps and sharing and consistently learning and growing. And then also just learning and living, because every time that you do something that doesn't work, you're like, probably don't want to do that again. Yeah. Or if something like crushes, you're like, yes, I found another freaking shortcut.
Totally. And then it's the cool thing about having a team or being on a team where it's a culture of sharing with each other as you do that, or you're like, wow, I just created an awesome template for how I follow up with buyers that have kind of been tire kickers or are feeling really discouraged about losing out on their third home or something like that. Then it's like, save that in the notes and send it to the team. And so many other people are going to benefit from that and give their clients a better experience because they now have better expectations, sort of thing.
Real quick, as you likely know, the 2024 Real Estate Rockstars Mastermind is sold out. But if one of your preferred vendors is looking for marketing opportunities, we are looking for sponsors. We would love to get their name and business out to 80 highly motivated real estate agents from across the country. Know someone who'd be interested? Go to realestaterockstarsnetwork.com and shoot us a quick email for more information. Thanks so much. Back to the show. You just you said the word templates. And so this is a great segue into my last little bit of questioning before we go to wrap up is, what are the systems and templates that you guys use frequently in your business? So listeners can get an idea of like, oh, I didn't even think to have a template of that or a system around that and get the ideas flowing.
Yes. So a good template is, when I sit down with buyers, I view the buyer consultation as like, that's my time to have it not be a big rush. We go through the whole listing presentation. It's a simple 10-page PowerPoint where it's like, find your house, get on an MLS search, get connected with the lender, choose your realtor. So that's a time for me to go like, I'm going to set great expectations for exactly what they should expect throughout the whole process. It's also during that time that I may set the expectation. The market is totally different now, but for a while it was like, hey, we're talking about it's normal to pay $20,000 to $50,000 over the asking price. Like we're ripping off some of those Band-Aids in that first one. Then what we do is we'll leave that. I always give the same few things like, hey, I'm going to get you connected to the lender. We'll get you on a North Star MLS search. I'm going to send you this app that we use. You can use that as another resource. And I might give one other, depending on if they're an investor or not, one other item. And then from there, I have the same follow-up template that we always use when I do that buyer consultation, where it kind of highlights everything we talked about and what's needed from them and sets great expectations. And we also get connected on like a text group following that, where it's me, someone on the team that may be helping show them properties and the two buyers, and then another one that's me, my assistant, and them. So we kind of just get everything like, that's a big day, the buyer consultation, because if that day goes great and they have all the expectations, then, we're set up to have a great search. Another one is when someone gets the accepted offer, then we send out a big template. And I didn't always do this, but that highlights, accepted offer to closing day. Just for my analytical people out there that are like, they just need a list of everything. Because I kept getting questions on, hey, once we get through the inspection, I know you mentioned the appraisal happens. When does title come in? These buzzwords that they had heard in our consultation. So we just get that. There's also the, hey, we're thinking about writing an offer, but we're unsure about the price or terms. So I have a template in my notes that is explaining, price. Maybe we want to talk about an escalation clause. Then we're talking about closing day, how to make that attractive. These are all things that we covered in the consultation, but now it's just a big, massive text where it's highlighting the 6 most important things. Because then I may jump on a phone call with them and we go, hey, thanks so much for that list. These are the terms we're thinking about. And they're ready to be super competitive because I already laid out for them for closing day. We want to be, we want to choose what the sellers want for the closing day. Earnest money, if we increase that above the normal 1%, we look more attractive. If instead of a 7-day inspection period, we have a 2-day inspection period with a cap on what we can ask for. So that's a super important template. And then, the list kind of goes on. So any response that I ever do to someone, like, except for if it's a super, the situation super specific, it's usually something that I've texted before, and then I can look at my notes and have a better response for them than the 1-minute response I maybe would give between appointments or something like that. It's a copy and paste.
I'm so with you. I love templates. I also love that you do a recap email. I think that is so important, and I feel like it's commonly overlooked. But after an appointment, whether it be Zoom or in person, consolidating the notes and creating a summary of like, okay, this is the timeline for expectations. Your homework is this. My homework is this. The admin's homework is this. This is the timeline in which to expect. And like, it makes life so much easier on all parties, because you're totally right. The analytical or not even analytical person can just print it and stick it on their fridge and be like, okay, this is where we're at in the process. Something I don't know this. I recently found this out and just sharing. I don't know if you do this, but all of the template responses for like on emails and or on texts or Instagram or whatever, if you're using Chrome, there's this thing called Magical AI. And whenever you are like, you can put all of your templates, all of the copy paste templates into Magical AI with little trigger words. So let's just say like recap email, you would just do like dash recap and then hit enter, and your entire thing will auto populate. Like, boom. And you can even set it so it's like name, you know what I mean? So like in the template, so then it pulls the name from your computer, from your email, from the Instagram, for wherever. And so it's like, hey, Lars, boom. And it's free and I'm obsessed. So if you haven't heard of Magical AI, if you use Chrome, you have to use Chrome for it. I highly recommend checking it out. And I wish I had some sort of like affiliate code, but it's free, so it doesn't matter.
No, that is awesome. That's great. I will, I'm not super techie, but that's like, like I'll leave, and some, if anyone's listening to this, I'm happy to send over any templates. One that I've used a lot lately is that I didn't do a great job is if I do like, hey, we're thinking about selling our home, and I go to that home, I then, as soon as I leave a voice message for my assistant that, hey, this is what I saw. This is what we talked about. This is what they're thinking for price. Pull up this comparable market analysis email with net proceeds. And I kind of I know there's like 5 bullet points that I need to give her to start to fill out that email. And it has, hey, as we're talking about staging, here's the stager, we'll make it connect. Like it just has everything. And then if I'm able to leave a voicemail for her super quick, it triggers that email. And then if I get back to the office in an hour and I'm sending that within a couple hours, you start to make it really easy on yourself, because you're so on the spot with what you talked about and setting expectations. And it's almost like they're working with you without ever agreeing to work with you because you're just
100%.
right into it. Hey, we're sending over the initial documents to get started so we can get started on this stuff.
And something that you sent us, thank you so much, is a tool for the toolbox. Lars is providing us with the buyer offer accepted checklist that he and his organization use. So go to realestaterockstarsnetwork.com and click toolbox so you can access it for free. But also, Lars, people are listening to this and they're like, dude, I need more of that guy in my life. Where is he? How do I find him?
My Instagram handle is Larcy.Anderson. Larcy with a Y. I think Lars.Anderson was taken. And then on Facebook, you can just look up Lars Anderson in the Twin Cities, and I think I should pop up. Or
Perfect.
Look me up on Zillow.
And all of his links will be in the show notes if you're driving, whatever, can't pull it up right now. And Lars, anything else that you want to share that we didn't go over?
I think as time has gone on, I have been like, hey, if people aren't finding success or even looking at my own life of like, what are some things I can just go back to if it's like, man, why do I feel the way I do? Or why is there a lack of motivation? And it goes back to like, when am I waking up? Am I working out? Do I have a scheduled day or have I got lax on like, how my day is scheduled? And am I running my days by emotions or by like a strategy that I previously created? Those things sound really simple, but it's like, or if I'm in a bad mood or something like that, it's like, have I taken time to be grateful today? So I like to just ask myself little questions like that. And I began to get better at asking people that I'm surrounded with those simple questions. So I think that just is big, especially for realtors right now, because it's not so simple when rates are going up and we're having a lot of tough conversations and there's not as many transactions happening countrywide and stuff like that. So just, stay true to those things.
Words of wisdom. And if you're listening out there, you have referrals for Twin Cities, Minnesota, and the surrounding areas. Lars is your man. Find him again on Instagram at Larsy.Anderson. Did I screw that up?
No, that's great.
Yeah, Larsy.Anderson. Send him all the business in the world. Or maybe you're there and you're like, wow, he sounds like my type of people. I'm looking for a team and an environment just like that. Go talk to him. He's the man. And if you want to hang out with the owner of the show, it is Aaron Amuchastegui on the gram. Super cool dude. Send him all the love in the world and hang out with me too at The Shelby Show on Instagram. I want to know what we could be doing better, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to learn about, and who you want to learn from. So at The Shelby Show for that. And otherwise, Lars, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And Real Estate Rockstars, thanks for listening.